I made a promise to you guys. If you guys smash the like button on the last video, we would run it back. In this video today, I'm going to break down rounds 6 through 10, the biggest values in each round of fantasy football. And again, this wouldn't be possible without you guys smashing the like button on the last video, so give yourselves a pat on the back for that. The middle rounds of fantasy football can get tricky. We're just going to hunt for upside in each of these rounds because maybe your 8th, 9th round pick last year was just a flyer or a why not chance you took, and it ended up being the biggest upside. It ended up being guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba, guys like Brian Thomas Jr. And I don't want you guys, yes, you guys at home, to miss out on the next middle round gem in fantasy football. So kick back, grab your favorite bev, grab your favorite snack. I have mine here already. If you've been rocking with me for a while, you know what my beverage of choice is. I love you so much. Roll it. Round 6. I'm going to assume that everybody who's watching this video already knows the name I'll say because I've said this name numerous times this offseason. If you're not tired of hearing about DeAndre Swift, then let me talk about DeAndre Swift again for you on this channel. Looking at the draft board from an objective standpoint, we're looking at here in round 6, there's 2 more players at the running back position that you could actually legitimately trust on draft day and feel really good about. In round 6, and more importantly, right after DeAndre Swift and Isaiah Pacheco, the running back tier hits a wall. 1 minute, we're looking at DeAndre Swift and Isaiah Pacheco, guys we trust, maybe don't love them this year, but we trust them to be a good running back. And if we look at the ladder, if you don't get one of those 2 picks, you're fighting between Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason as the best available running back. But what does DeAndre Swift have going for him that makes him a better pick or have more upside than an Isaiah Pacheco, an Aaron Jones, a Jordan Mason, even an Emeka Egbuka? This is a rare instance, as we've seen in the last video, where we're getting a player who in these middle rounds is not only the biggest upside but also has the safest floor, ironically. No, he's never had a top 12 running back finish, but he's never finished worse than RB21. His worst season came with Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator. Now Ben Johnson is his head coach. Wouldn't we all agree there's nobody behind DeAndre Swift in this running back room that could vulture 17 touchdowns away from him like Jamal Williams did when they were on the Lions together? Sure, you could lose all of the goal line carries if you're DeAndre Swift to a Roschon Johnson, a Kyle Monangai, someone else in the depth chart. But the receptions that DeAndre Swift is going to accumulate over the season, assuming this is a better offense, they score more points, they can move the ball. This team couldn't really move the ball last year. Still a top 20 running back. If we're getting to round 6 and we have players we feel good about, maybe 1 or 2 guys we're not so sure about by the time we get to round 6, this is a player that is reliable, but also has the moon upside of being a top 12 running back this year. Maybe the Bears won't be fighting for a Super Bowl, but hey, if they can have 1 or 2 more games this season compared to last year where they're winning, they're sitting on the ball with the lead, that's crazy garbage points potential for a guy like DeAndre Swift. And maybe I stretch the truth saying top 12 upside. The upside isn't top 12. Top 15 is pretty realistic. Round 7, we're going to go back to wide receiver. And while if you wanted to wait the 4 games out and stash him on your IR, Jordan Addison is a phenomenal pick here. We're going to talk about Matthew Golden, somebody that has arguably higher upside in my opinion, and somebody that's definitely going to start the season week 1 on the field. It's not that the 4 games that Jordan Addison is going to miss is the deciding factor between is Matthew Golden a bigger value. In order to understand the absolute upside and ceiling that Matthew Golden can have, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers and more specifically the wide receiver room. This is a room that's we could all agree are filled with B players, B minus players. Nobody's an A. Nobody in this wide receiver room is an alpha that stands above the rest. And while maybe I'm not convinced that Matthew Golden is head and shoulders better than the other guys, let's consider what all of these wide receivers in the offense, let's consider what the Green Bay Packers wide receivers excel at and what their flaws are. Let's start with Jayden Reed. Slot wide receiver, incredibly speedy, gifted, and athletic, has issues staying on the field at times. That could be a problem. Matthew Golden's availability could potentially trump Jaden Reed in the pecking order. Probably the most unrealistic of the bunch. You've got guys like Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson, gadget guys, but have problems with hanging on to the football. Matthew Golden's pretty good at that, but ultimately Matthew Golden is just more versatile, and the hype and buzz he's earning around camp seems to be warranted at this point. Even if he doesn't come out as clear and best in that wide receiver room, he's probably going to be fighting for a lot of targets this year, and I think the upside of him winning the job is enough to want to take him in the 7th round. Round 8 is crazy. I don't know if you guys heard of this one. He's pretty new to fantasy football, so even if you've been playing fantasy football for the last 7-10 years, you may not heard of him, but Joe Mixon's available in the 8th round, guys. Yes, I understand Joe Mixon will be starting the season injured and not make a start until who even knows. But as crazy as it sounds, 8 to 10 games of Joe Mixon in an offense where we don't really trust the next guy up. Yeah, they have Nick Chubb. I don't imagine them deploying Nick Chubb and using him in the ways that Joe Mixon was. He's not the pass catcher Joe Mixon is. I really, as much as I didn't like drafting Joe Mixon coming into the offseason, I will say that, and I will be honest about it. Having the idea of him being injured would make me want to draft a Nick Chubb or Woody Marks even more. But now that Joe Mixon, year over year, top 10, 15 production at the position of running back, the hardest position to fill, we're not gonna take anything earlier than an 8th round pick on Joe Mixon. Not even a 7th, really? This pick is just volume. I may not know how many games Joe Mixon's gonna play. I may only get him for 5 games. But if those 5 games are me trying to clinch the playoffs and get in to win a championship, I want Joe Mixon in those 5 games. Call me crazy. This is a player that year over year, production, high volume, extremely consistent. All of these things match up with Joe Mixon, yet we're drafting him in a pool of players that are nothing like Joe Mixon. The biggest upside. You want it? Joe Mixon has it. Plain and simple. Let's move on. In round 9, I have to go with Tyler Warren on this one. Sure, I can use the low-hanging fruit and argue that Sam Laporta in 2023 finished as the tight end 1 as a rookie. In 2024, Brock Bowers finished as tight end 1 as a rookie. And Tyler Warren, not gonna say it. But you get where I'm going with this, right? I know. You can't trust the quarterback. And you don't really know what this offense is gonna do. Or if it's worth drafting someone in this offense. But do you know who we said that about last year? Yeah, I do. It was Brock Bowers. We said that about Brock Bowers last year. Or at least I did. I'll own up to it. And you know what? Just like Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren comes into the NFL draft and is widely considered one of the most elite prospects we've ever seen. Where you're probably fishing around for other positions or settling for the mid of the mid with Bo Nix as your quarterback. No disrespect to you, Bo. I'm a huge fan, by the way. Where you'd be drafting these other positions at, just go take the chance on Tyler Warren. It's the biggest upside. Do you play in a 2-flex league? Stick him at your flex. Another player that's really good in round 9 and also has massive upside. Keon Coleman. As much as I like Keon Coleman, I might actually just be a Keon Coleman denier. I'm going to go with the ignorant, arrogant, stupid, I gotta see it to believe it. Finally, round 10. In my opinion, if you're not going to get Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, this right here, this is where we need to draft the quarterback position, everyone. Come here for a sec. Come here. Drake May in round 10 has elite quarterback upside. That sounds ridiculous. Well, actually, it doesn't. Drake may have took a beating from the pocket last year, but not all of that ended up being so bad, as he ran for over 400 rushing yards in just 13 games last year. No, in 13 games, those 400 and some change rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns isn't all that glamorous. We all know quarterbacks with the upside to run and score touchdowns with their legs are an elite asset in fantasy football. Let's look at all of the top 10 quarterbacks from last year. Only Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Sam Darnold were the only 3 quarterbacks out of that 10 to have less than 3 rushing touchdowns. And unless you're the rare instance of a rushing quarterback who doesn't get to start the entire NFL season, i.e. Anthony Richardson or Justin Fields, if you're getting multiple rushing touchdowns, 4 or more, you've got a great great chance of finishing inside the top 10 of fantasy. And I know, asking him to double his rushing touchdowns from 2 to 4 in a year is still a lot to ask for, but we see the pathway, right? We see Drake May's ceiling if unlocked as a runner in Josh McDaniels' offense, which, if you don't remember, he's had to work with Cam Newton before. Josh McDaniels has even elevated the likes of a Tim Tebow. God, I can't believe I just used Tim Tebow in an argument to prove my point. But Josh McDaniels, whether he knows or doesn't know what he's doing as a head coach, knows how to get the most out of his quarterbacks with mobile upside. So in conclusion, if Drake May is going to reach his ceiling as a fantasy football quarterback, it's not going to be because he threw for almost 5,000 yards and had a ridiculous amount of passing touchdowns. It's because the Patriots are going to unlock him as a dual threat pocket passer and a runner outside of the pocket. And that the rushing touchdowns could make Drake May go from middle of the pack quarterback to elite fantasy asset. Sadly, that's all the time I got for you guys today. If you like this video, make sure you smash that like button for your boy. I would really appreciate it. If you want to see a part 3 of the biggest upsides to draft in your fantasy football league, gotta smash that like button. What are we doing here? Outlier Militia, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Turtle, this is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video. Wow, you stuck to the end of this video? Thank you so much. If you're new here, make sure you check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And don't forget, before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any fantasy football videos on this channel. And that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.